If I had been given free drugs and free alcohol and free resources like that, I would never have sobered up.
Abstinence is the best way to go.
This past weekend, over 30,000 people from nearly 100 countries flocked to Vancouver's BC Place. Why? They came for an international convention for what is arguably the most successful recovery program in the world, Alcoholics Anonymous. While former alcoholics and many recovering from other substances celebrated their sobriety with an opening ceremony, live music, dances, speeches, and around-the-clock meetings, just a drive away in Vancouver's East Hastings remained the epicenter of the province's addiction crisis. A crisis that has only worsened under BC's socialist government, especially since the rollout of their decriminalization and safer supply agenda. And since you'd be hard-pressed to find a single government program that frequently refers AA and other 12-step programs like it to people struggling with addiction, I decided to head down there to ask a few who found long-term sobriety what they think about the government's approach to handling addiction and what advice they had to share. Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News. And in 2020, amidst a declared pandemic and government-mandated isolation, the BC government, under the direction of NDP forces, including the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction, Sheila Melkinson, at that time, and our provincial health officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry, made British Columbia the first jurisdiction in the world to implement a blanket safer supply policy. That meant that tax-funded hard drugs, including stimulants and injectable fentanyl, could be legally prescribed and handed out to struggling people battling addiction. The public was told this radical shift in policy would result in harm reduction. In other words, fewer overdoses. But was any of that true? No, it was not. Instead, comprehensive studies like last year's JAMA internal medicine investigation confirmed that the safer supply experiment is linked to a significant increase in drug poisonings and hospitalization. Overdoses have only increased, and even our own federal government has finally come out admitting that the safer supply agenda in BC has been a failure. Adding to the likely loss of lives under the promise of safer supply is the issue of diversion, where we now know for sure that some of this tax-paid-for supply wasn't taken by who it was prescribed to and instead made its way into the hands of vulnerable children and across borders.
If you've got tens of millions of dollars of free drugs getting into the hands of organized crime and gangs, and then they're marketing it across the country, then we've got to have a serious talk with British Columbia about how we're going to stop that.
Should we be surprised then that British Columbia was named as a key culprit by President Trump when he announced tariffs would be implemented to tighten the borders? So when I learned that tens of thousands of people being successful in their sobriety were coming down to Vancouver, I thought, who better then to go and talk to about their personal lived experiences and the solutions they think are helpful for those battling addiction. Now, to be clear, none of the people who did choose to talk and address this are speaking on behalf of Alcohol Anonymous. Here are their personal opinions. Now, you're from British Columbia.
Yes.
Tell us how long you've been sober.
I've been sober for 22 years.
11 years. My sobriety is 25 years.
20 years.
Ultimately, I needed to go through what I needed to go through to, that I needed to eventually get to be sober. So
You've had success in your recovery, and you probably know about British Columbia's approach, being the first jurisdiction in the entire world to implement across the whole province a safer supply agenda that gives anything up to injectable fentanyl to people for free. What was going through your mind when you learned about that?
Personally, I feel that 22 years ago or so when I walked off the street, there had been free dope or, like a supply like that, I probably wouldn't have made it to where I am today, right?
Well, the first thought that ran through my mind was it was palliative care for drug addicts because I know for myself that if I had been given free drugs and free alcohol and free resources like that, I would never have sobered up. I would not be here talking to you today. I would have died.
I guess when I first hear fentanyl, I know fentanyl can be quite dangerous to work with. So yeah, I'm not sure as far as how regulated or how they're able to, or like the manufacturers of this substance are able to make it somehow quote unquote safe.
Yeah, in German it's if you have health insurance, and the most people have it, you will get help, and also help from the government.
The jury is out on the link, and it shows that the link between the safer supply agenda and overdoses and hospitalizations is significant. They have significantly increased. What do you make when you walk down East Hastings, for example, and you know that we still haven't completely halted that program?
If you're going to continue to do drugs, if you have an addiction problem, what happens is that you just want more. And, you know, when I see those people, like, they're dying on our streets.
Abstinence is the best way to go. If I put anything in, I just never know when I'm going to stop, right? And can't have any control over my actions in any way, shape, or form, right? So to make it difficult is might be a good place to start. Some more treatment centers, recoveries.
More money needs to be put into funding for treatment centers and detox centers, so that when those people do get that window of opportunity where they say, I can't do this anymore, that they can just be moved into one of those facilities so they have the opportunity to sober up.
Any amount is dangerous. We see the numbers, the deaths across the province themselves, and the amount of people that are on the street has grown exponentially since they brought this in. So
you said the government in Germany helps people in some ways, but what do those ways look like? What are they doing to help?
Yeah, normally people have health insurance, and so you have everything. You can go to a hospital, and they will stay normally 1-2 weeks, and you get clean sober, and maybe you can have therapy for, I don't know, 3 weeks, 2 months. And if you want to have help, you will get help.
If there's anybody struggling right now watching, what's your advice for them while they are in addiction?
There's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of 12-step resources. There's other types of resources as well, but most of them do move towards abstinence. And, so if you are struggling, there's a lot of meetings, a lot of 12-step meetings, different 12-step fellowships here that are wide open. They're free of cost. They're self-supporting through their own contributions. And, you'll be surrounded by people who were once like you who have now recovered.
Another really big thing is just knowing that you're not alone. You're not super unique. You're not totally unique or whatnot.
I didn't understand it at all until it was too late for me, right? So if you are struggling at all, there's a lot of places you can look. There's a lot of, even in the Main and Hastings areas like Insight, there's many places that, you can turn to that will help you look at a different way than, just trying to live the life that you're living right now, right?
What does that feel like to come here, see people from all over the world come to this convention?
It's pretty amazing. You see people, hear their stories, and you know that they did what they said they did, and they went to the places that they said they did. But looking at them, you didn't really. It's kind of hard to come to terms with that, because they don't look like that person that would do those sort of things.
It's absolutely amazing to see people from all over the world that come here, and we all have the same goal in mind, and we've all come from the same places where our lives were falling apart, and families, jobs all gone, everything, and everybody has a life today, and an amazing life. So it's just been an amazing experience.
We all have to get sober the same way. We all work the steps into our lives, and yeah, it's pretty amazing to be that with that many people that have done the same thing. There's quite a vibe in that.
Do you want to see people struggling in your city get the actual help we know works, like recovery and more treatment, instead of experimented on? Then go to our special website called helpnotharm.ca. Sign and share our petition there today.